Ever met a space marine who could, like, walk through a psychic hurricane and come out perfectly fine?
You'd be hard-pressed to find one tougher than Lieutenant Titus.
That's Titus in a nutshell.
Right.
And that's why we're diving deep into his story today. We're talking Warhammer 40K lore, and trust me, this guy is an enigma, even by Space Marine standards. And those guys are practically superhuman already.
It's not just his combat record either. It's the mysteries surrounding him, the questions even the lore leaves unanswered.
So if you're a fellow 40K fan, get ready to go deep. And if you're new to this whole grimdark future thing,
Well, buckle up because this is one wild ride.
okay, before we go full lore nerds, let's do a quick Warhammer 40K crash course. Imagine humanity on the brink, right? Fighting a losing battle against everything the galaxy can throw at us. Aliens, heretics, you name it. It's not pretty.
That's where the Space Marines come in. Genetically enhanced super soldiers, the best humanity has to offer. Loyal, unyielding, and practically invincible.
And even amongst these legendary warriors, Titus stands out. He's an ultramarine, which tells you a lot right there. Discipline, adherence to the Codex Astartes.
Their Primarch Roboot Gilliman instilled that in them. The Ultramarines are the exemplars, the poster boys for following orders to the letter.
Exactly. So how does a by-the-book ultramarine like Titus end up shrouded in so much mystery?
Well, it's not just that he's an Ultramarine. He was captain of the second company,
Which means,
which means he was already pushing the boundaries, even within the Ultramarines. The second company, they're the ones known for taking risks, for pushing the limits of what's acceptable. It's just a certain initiative that's going to be important later.
okay, I'm starting to see where this is going. So we've got this by-the-book ultramarine who's also known for pushing the limits. What happens next?
The Forge World of Graia happens.
Graia, right. A planet-sized factory pumping out weapons for the Imperium's never-ending wars. Orcs are overrunning the place, as they do.
A classic 40K problem. And naturally, Titus and his squad get sent in to deal with it.
Sounds like a typical Tuesday for a Space Marine captain, right? It's not.
Enter Chaos Sorcerer Nerov, and things go sideways fast.
Chaos. That's the really messed up part of 40K, right? We're talking about entities from beyond reality, warping minds and bodies, corrupting everything they touch. Not something you want to mess with, even if you are a Space Marine.
And that's what makes Titus so unusual. He faces Neroth, this powerful chaos sorcerer, and nothing. No corruption, no possession, just this unsettling resistance.
Wait, hold on. Space Marines, as tough as they are, they're not immune to chaos. In fact,
They're prime targets. Their very nature makes them susceptible. So for Titus to just shrug off an encounter with a being like Neroth, that raises serious red flags.
and I'm guessing it gets even more complicated from there.
It wouldn't be Warhammer 40K if it didn't.
So what happens? Does Titus try to explain this weird resilience? Do the Ultramarines even believe him?
Well, Titus being Titus, he does something even more unexpected. He confronts Neroth directly, defies orders in the process.
Against a Chaos Sorcerer, what was he thinking?
We don't know for sure. Some say it was arrogance, others bravery. Whatever the reason, it deeply disturbs his comrade, Leandros.
Leandros, that name rings a bell.
He's the one who reports Titus to the Inquisition. And that's when things really escalate.
The Inquisition. Okay, for those who need a refresher, we're not talking about just any intergalactic police force here.
They're the Imperium's secret weapon and its worst nightmare, tasked with rooting out heresy and corruption wherever it may hide. And they're not known for their gentle touch.
So Titus, this decorated ultramarine captain, gets investigated by the Inquisition. What do they find?
They find no evidence of chaos taint, at least not directly.
So he's cleared. Case closed.
Not quite. The fact that he had to be investigated at all, that leaves a mark, especially on a Space Marine.
A stain that doesn't just fade away. So Titus is cleared, but not really cleared, right? It's like, what happens to a Space Marine with that kind of question mark hanging over their head? Like, yeah, you're good, probably.
Well, the Inquisition, they're thorough, but they're also practical. They need every weapon they can get against the threats facing the Imperium. So in Titus's case...
We send him to the Death Watch.
Precisely.
Right, the Death Watch. Okay, for our listeners who maybe haven't delved into the depths of 40K lore, what exactly is the Death Watch?
Imagine, if you will, the best of the best, drawn from Space Marine chapters across the galaxy. They're not fighting for a planet or a sector. They're fighting for humanity itself against a single terrifying enemy.
Xenos. Aliens.
Yeah.
The unknown out there.
Exactly. They're specialists in the worst things the galaxy has to offer, things that would make even a veteran Space Marine think twice. It's a prestigious posting, sure, but it's also incredibly dangerous.
And often seen as a way for Marines to, atone for past mistakes,
Yeah,
to prove their loyalty beyond any shadow of doubt.
that's one way to look at it. It's a crucible, a test few can endure. And for Titus, with the cloud of suspicion still hanging over him,
It's a way to keep an eye on him while still using his, shall we say, unique talents. Fighting chaos with one hand, aliens with the other. Talk about a full plate.
you're not wrong. And this period of Titus's life is fascinating because it's where the mystery around him truly deepens. See, when he joins the Death Watch, he takes on the mantle of a black shield.
Black Shield. Okay, now we're getting into the really obscure corners of the 40K universe.
Black shields are unique even within the Death Watch. They've renounced all ties to their former chapters, their oaths, everything.
Why would anyone do that? Space Marines are nothing if not loyal to their brothers.
Some choose it, their chapter destroyed or declared traitor. Others, it's thrust upon them, a mark of shame or a burden they must bear.
But Titus, he wasn't a traitor, not officially. So why become a Black Shield? Was it a way to escape the scrutiny? To disappear into the endless war against the Xenos?
We can only speculate. The Death Watch keeps its secrets close, and Titus's motives are as mucky as the alien-infested depth of space he's fighting in. For all intents and purposes, he vanishes.
Vanishes. And then, I mean, this is Titus we're talking about. He doesn't exactly stay gone, does he?
He returns. During the Fourth Tyrannic War, no less. The Tyranids, those galaxy-devouring swarms of bioengineered horror, they're back with a vengeance.
And fighting alongside the Ultramarines, amidst the carnage and the chaos, is Lieutenant Titus. Wait, Lieutenant. He's been demoted.
Not exactly a demotion, but a change nonetheless. See, during his time away, the galaxy has shifted. Guilliman, the Primarch of the Ultramarines, he's back from the dead.
That's a whole other deep dive right there. Long story short, Gilliam's been busy. Reorganizing the Imperium, creating new Primaris Marines.
Bigger, tougher, more resistant to the temptations of chaos. But even within the chapters, the Primaris are controversial.
A symbol of change in a galaxy that fears it.
Precisely. And now Titus, already an anomaly, returns as one of them.
It's like the 40K universe is piling on the mystery, isn't it? But this is where things get really interesting. He's still under suspicion, isn't he?
Oh, absolutely. The resilience, the time in the Death Watch, now this, it's like trying to put together a puzzle where the pieces keep changing shape. Even Titus himself might not know all the answers.
And you know what else doesn't just disappear? Chaos. Specifically, Neroth.
Ah, yes, Neroth, he's back as well.
And not just as a sorcerer anymore, right?
Yeah.
He's gone and gotten himself promoted.
Daemon Prince Neroth. Even more powerful, even more enmeshed with the warp. A being of pure malice and cunning.
It's almost poetic, isn't it?
Yeah.
These two figures, forever linked by that encounter on Greya, both changed, both elevated in a way. It's hard not to see this as a personal vendetta for Neroth, a chance to finish what he started. So we got a Space Marine who shrugs off chaos, joins the mysterious Death Watch, becomes a Primaris Marine, and now his old nemesis is back with a vengeance as a Demon Prince.
Yeah.
Where do we even begin to unpack what's really going on with Titus? So we've laid out the mystery, this puzzle surrounding Lieutenant Titus. He should be corrupted by chaos, but he's not. In fact, he seems almost immune. Where do we even start trying to explain that?
Let's start with the most straightforward possibility, at least in the insanely warped context of Warhammer 40K. What if Titus is a blank?
A blank. Okay, now there's a term you don't hear every day. And by every day, I mean pretty much never, unless you spend way too much time on 40K wikis like I do.
Blanks are incredibly rare, almost mythical in the lore. They have no presence in the warp whatsoever. It's like they're invisible to the powers of chaos.
So going back to Neroth, the Chaos Sorcerer,
Yeah.
he couldn't get a grip on Titus because there was nothing there to grab.
Exactly. No psychic presence, no way to influence or corrupt him. It's the ultimate defense against chaos.
That would explain the resilience, his ability to shrug off Neroth's attacks like they were nothing. But something about that doesn't quite add up, does it? I mean, we're talking about Titus here.
That's the problem with the blank theory. It doesn't quite fit with what we know about them. Blanks, from the few accounts we have, they're usually withdrawn, almost soulless. Empty vessels.
And Titus. Titus is anything but empty. He's driven, he's passionate, he charges headfirst into situations that would make other Space Marines hesitate. And he leads with that same passion. He inspires those around him. It's hard to imagine a blank doing that.
It's one of the reasons the blank theory, while tempting, doesn't quite hold water. It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
Okay, so if not a blank, then what? What other explanations are we left with?
Well, some have theorized that Titus might be a latent psyker.
A psyker? You mean he's got psychic powers himself? But wouldn't the Ultramarines, with all their tests and rituals, wouldn't they have detected that?
That's the thing about psychic potential. Sometimes it emerges later in life or under specific circumstances. It's possible Titus has a well of power he's not even aware of.
And that this subconscious power is what shielded him from Neroth's attack. I mean, it's not impossible.
Exactly. But again, there are holes in the theory. The Ultramarines are incredibly thorough in their screening process. They have ways of detecting even the faintest flicker of psychic potential.
So we're left with a puzzle. A mystery that even the experts can't seem to crack. It's like we're in the heart of the 40K universe now, where things stop making sense and you just have to accept that sometimes.
Warp shenanigans are the only explanation.
Yeah, maybe. But you know what? I kind of love that about Warhammer 40K. Just when you think you figured it out, it throws something new at you. Keeps you guessing.
And Titus, he embodies that, doesn't he? He's the embodiment of the unknown, even within a universe full of unknowns.
Okay, so indulge me here. If we're going down the rabbit hole, what are some of the wilder theories out there? The ones that make you tilt your head and go, maybe.
Well, there's the theory that Titus's resilience isn't just some random quirk, but something ordained.
Ordained, as in fate, destiny.
Some believe he might be connected to the Emperor himself.
Whoa, now that's a theory and a half. The Emperor, the godlike ruler of the Imperium, has his hand on Titus's shoulder, guiding him through the galaxy's worst nightmares.
It sounds outlandish, but the Emperor works in mysterious ways. His will is felt across the galaxy, influencing events in ways we can barely comprehend. What if Titus is part of some grand plan we can't even begin to grasp?
Okay, I can see how that would get some fans speculating, but we're talking about the Emperor here. If he's involved, wouldn't he make his presence a little more obvious?
Not necessarily. The Emperor's plans are often subtle, playing out over centuries, even millennia. But that brings us to another, perhaps even more unsettling possibility.
Even more unsettling than being a pawn in the Emperor's cosmic chess game. Let's hear it.
What if Titus's resilience isn't a gift, but a curse? What if it's not the Emperor who's watching over him, but something far more sinister?
You're going to say chaos, aren't you?
Chaos works in subtle ways, too. They whisper promises of power, plant seeds of doubt that blossom into full-blown heresy. What if Titus's resilience is part of some long con? What if they're setting him up for something, using his perceived purity for their own ends?
A sleeper agent for chaos. A weapon pointed right at the heart of the Imperium. I don't like that, not one bit.
And yet, it's a possibility we can't ignore. Chaos is patient. They're content to let their plans unfold over generations, and they see mortals as nothing more than pawns in their games.
Okay, now I'm really starting to see why Titus is such a fascinating character to unpack. He represents the heart of the Warhammer 40K universe, the clash between faith and doubt, the struggle against overwhelming darkness. He's a walking contradiction, a symbol of hope, and a potential vessel for chaos. It's enough to make you question everything.
And remember, we can't forget about the Thousand Suns.
The Thousand Suns? What do those psychic space wizards have to do with this?
They're deeply involved in the events of Space Marine 2. And the Thousand Suns, they're masters of manipulation, of twisting fate to their own ends. What role do they play in Titus's story? Are they influencing him, guiding him down a path he doesn't even realize he's on?
So we've got a mystery wrapped in a riddle, sprinkled with a healthy dose of chaos and psychic shenanigans. This is Warhammer 40K at its finest.
It's a testament to the richness of the lore, to the way it sparks the imagination and leaves you with more questions than answers.
It's been a wild ride exploring the mystery that is Lieutenant Titus. He's more than just a badass space marine. He's a mirror, reflecting the complexities and contradictions of the 40K universe. He makes us question everything, even our own perceptions of good and evil, fate and free will. And that's the mark of a truly compelling character. So next time you're battling your way through the grim darkness of the far future, remember Lieutenant Titus. And ask yourself, what would you do if you were in his shoes? Would you trust your instincts, or would you always be looking over your shoulder, wondering if you were a hero, a pawn, or something in between? Until next time, happy hunting, and may the Emperor guide your path.